Hi, today I'm joined by Shawn Peters, CEO of Information Services Corporation. ISC is a leading provider of registry and information management services headquartered in Canada and listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange with a market capitalization of around 500 million Canadian dollars. Hi, welcome, Shawn.
Hi, Harry. Nice to see you.
So ISC has doubled its revenue and adjusted EBITDA over the last 10 years. And you've now set out the ambitious growth strategy to double these metrics again over the next 5 years by 2028. Be great to hear a little bit more about the strategy and how ISC is going to go around achieving this acceleration in growth.
Yeah, really, we're going to continue to do what we've done in the past 10 years. As you said, we've doubled in size. We're just going to do it a little bit faster and with a little bit more conviction. So over the years, we've built a really strong business through M&A and through organic growth, and we've got a proven record in doing that and a bit of a formula for that success. So as I said, we're really going to execute against the same strategy, which is a strong focus on organic growth supplemented by some M&A where that makes sense, and just do that with a bit more conviction.
I think it's fair to say historically is the correct way of viewing ISC has been a steadily growing but cash generative business. With these new 2028 growth targets, should investors still be looking at ISC in that same way? But if not, how should they now be looking at ISC for the future years to come?
Great question. I think there's parts of the story that they should look at the same. As I said, over the last 10 years, we've been very, very steady and stable and predictable. That's going to continue. I mean, the types of businesses that we're in, no one is, totally immune to economic conditions, but we built a business that withstands sort of most economic conditions, has some counter-cyclical parts of the business that help in different economic conditions. So I think that stability and steady and predictability is going to remain. So they should continue to think about ISC as a steady company going forward, which consistently sort of meets our targets. The slight change, as you've sort of suggested, is that with more of a focus on growth, I think they should apply a bit more of a growth lens to the company as well.
One of the headline numbers that's comes out from the MSA extension with ISC's registry business, which includes an increased ad valorem fee, is this is going to enable ISC to generate over 1.3 billion in cash flow by 2053. What does this do, and how will this develop ISC's capital allocation policy moving forward?
It really strengthens it for us. So in the past, we've had this strong cash flow business, which has allowed us to do most of our M&A out of operating cash flow or, a little bit of debt. This additional MSA and the ad valorem fee, as you noted, really strengthens our balance sheet and strengthens our ability to do that. So our capital allocation has really been focused on growth, and we pay a solid dividend. We expect that will continue, but really focusing our capital on growing the business in all sorts of ways, both in M&A and reinvestment in the places where we need to for the organic growth that we're looking at.
Perfect. And moving on to the services division. So your services division has seen revenue grow almost tenfold since 2015 to over 100 million at FY23. At H124, revenue came out at 58 million, which it'd be reasonable to say looks on track to grow from this 23 number. How do you see the services division revenue developing over the current years, and how important is that division as part of this growth story?
Yeah, it really is an important part of it. Our Saskatchewan registry operations, which is, as we've talked about, numerous times before, is a really important part of the business that produces strong free cash flow. That's really where a lot of the stability and predictability comes from. But the growth really comes from our services part of our business. So we expect that same kind of growth to continue over the next 5 years. It's an integral part of where we're going to find both organic and inorganic growth. And so it really is an important part. It's the part of the business that we've been able to assemble through our past M&As to create the opportunity for the organic growth, and we're going to keep doing that.
Is it right to think about ISC's technology solutions division as the part of the business that has the real potential for global growth? It'd be good to hear a little bit about what that division offers and why it's so unique, and also that part that division's part in IFC growth strategy?
Yeah, it's really the newest segment that we have. And it was one that we've talked about before has been impacted the most during COVID or was impacted most during the pandemic. And that's really because governments and other jurisdictions at that time weren't interested in procuring software. And really, our technology solutions is providing software for jurisdictions for registry and regulatory parts of the business. So it's the one part of the business, a very small part, that had to sort of rebuild post pandemic. And that's what we're doing. So you're right that that's the segment that really has some potential for global growth. We already operate in a global market. And as we're rebuilding from that sort of post-pandemic, as jurisdictions are opening up and have opened up now and are coming back into procurement, we think that's the one that has some real opportunity for growth.
So you mentioned a couple of times inorganic growth. When it comes to M&A, how important will M&A be in getting to those 2028 targets? And when it comes to M&A activity, does ISC have preference when it comes to size, sector, geographical location? I think it might be quite useful to hear a little bit about what does a typical ISC M&A deal look like?
Yeah, it is important to our growth. It has been in the past. We're very prudent though, and very specific in what we look at in our M&A. So we're not just out sort of buying anything that we can sort of find. It has to be a company that meets some of our criteria. You just asked about size. Size is not as important to us. Typically, those have been sub 50 million Canadian, just because of the types of companies that we've been going after in the services ecosystem. So that's sort of a normal, but it could be bigger, it could be smaller. But we really do look for companies where we can add some value. So we're looking for companies that have good customer bases, good EBITDA already, but are just looking for a way to really ramp that up and grow. And that's where we can provide the value. So it is a key part of our growth strategy. But we're going to continue the discipline that we've had in the past, which is it has to be the right company at the right time, at the right place. And otherwise, we're just going to continue to execute against our organic plans.
ISC continued its strong start with record group revenue and adjusted EBITDA up 27% and 53% respectively year on year in its Q2 24 results. With both these metrics now making up over 50% of ISC's management guidance for 2024, how do you see the second half of the year playing out, and what key events, if any, should investors be looking out for?
Yeah, our growth and our guidance in early 2024 was pretty strong. We were saying we were going to be up 18 and 20% on revenue and adjusted EBITDA respectively. And so the first half of the year, Q2 is always our strongest, particularly in our Saskatchewan registry. So it's not unusual to see a really good, strong start. The back half of the year can be a bit slower, just the natural nature of the transactions. And so we're not expecting anything odd coming in the second half of the year. We've maintained our guidance because it was strong off the start. We got a good start to the first half of the year. We expect Q3 will be, as usual, a little slower than Q2, and then Q4 is usually one of our quietest quarters, particularly in the Saskatchewan registry business. So nothing really unusual that we're expecting in the second half of the year, which is why we've maintained our guidance. Obviously, what to look for. We look for the same things that a lot of companies look for. Interest rate changes can be impactful, and in Canada, we've seen a couple of rate cuts already this year. So continued cutting of the rate will be actually helpful in the back half of the year, and we're sort of forecasting that will probably happen. If it doesn't happen, I think we'll be pretty consistent for the rest of the year. But those are the main economic things in Canada are interest rates, population growth, unemployment, those types of things. All of those that affect a lot of businesses also have impact for us.
So you mentioned interest rates. So obviously, I thought it'd be really interesting to get your thoughts on. So the Bank of Canada cut interest rates in July by 25 basis points to 4.5%, which was the second consecutive cut in 2 months. What effect does this have on ISC's registry operations, and what's your macro environment outlook on interest rates and other variables for the rest of 2024?
Sure. So interest rates we have a bit of a delayed impact from interest rates. So interest rate cuts are helpful for us because it directly impacts mortgage rates, which directly impacts housing in the province of Saskatchewan. Particularly as rates go down, consumers become more comfortable with buying or switching their houses. They also become more comfortable in the amount of the mortgage. And so we see when interest rates go down, we see people change houses. We actually see them upgrade as well. So it's a very positive effect. It's a bit of a delayed effect. We're about 6 months behind those types of changes by the time all of that works through the economy and consumer confidence and all of that. But it is a very positive thing for us in the Saskatchewan registries. Overall, we think, and as we talk about the registries in particular, Saskatchewan right now has a very strong economy. It's a very diversified economy. We're seeing inflow from a population perspective. We're seeing these interest rate cuts, which are helpful. We're seeing big investment in the province in some of the resource sectors, which is helpful. All of that goes to a really positive mindset for consumers in the province of Saskatchewan, which helps, as I said, on housing, also helps on some of the other purchases like, cars and combines and CDs, all the other types of things that enter into our personal property registry and our corporate registry because people are more inclined to do business in Saskatchewan when there's that positive. So for the rest of the year, we see a pretty positive for Saskatchewan. And even into 2025, we haven't given guidance for that yet, but we would see that continuing into 2025.
Perfect. Well, thank you for your time today, Sean. It's been really, really, really interesting hearing more about IC's growth strategy, and I look forward to following the story more.
Yeah, great. Thanks for your time, Harry.
For more information on IC, please see the Edison Group website. Thank you.